Hello friends, welcome back. So in this session we will learn Spring REST using Spring Boot. So what is Spring REST? So before to see the Spring REST, let's see what we have learned in the previous session. So in previous session we have learned about Spring MVC, Spring Boot MVC. So what was Spring MVC? Spring MVC was a 3-layer architecture: view, controller and model. Model will communicate with the database, controller will communicate with the repository and UI technology, and UI will directly communicate with controller with the help of HTTP request and response. Let's see that once again. So I'm just starting the server. Yes, so you can see this one. So this is that previous application that we have seen in our Spring MVC course. So here you can see, here this is our UI: add customer, view customer, delete customer, update customer. So this is our view, and controller and repository, that is backend, that we can't see, that can be used to process the data. So suppose if I clicking on add customer, so it is redirecting to a different page. View customer, it is coming to this. So this is our UI. And if you see the pom.xml, we have included here theme leaf also, because we need to include UI technology also, like JSP, CSS, HTML, theme leaf, so that we can render our data to the UI. So but in Spring REST, there is no UI. UI will not be there. Only the data we will send. We will send only the data using HTTP protocol. So Spring REST services is what? Web service are client server application that communicate mostly over HTTP protocol and highly extensible. Services can be loosely coupled to solve the complex operation. So there is no dependency. There is no dependency on UI. You can use any of the UI technology, like you can use React, you can use WebFlex, you can use HTML, CSS, JavaScript, or you can use Angular, whatever UI technology. Even you want to use PHP, you can use. So any technology that you wanted to use for UI, you can use. You are free. But if you are using Spring MVC, then definitely you have to go with HTML, JavaScript, CSS and theme leaf, JSP. Only that technology that is supported in Java, that only you have to use. WebFlex you can use, but you cannot use Angular or any other, because that application is developed separately. But in Spring MVC, application is one only, this one, Spring Boot MVC demo. In this application, UI component is there, backend component is there. But in Spring REST, UI component will not be there. We will return the data in form of JSON or XML. So that is servlet, that is Spring REST. And if you see the pom.xml, actually in the last session I have not shown you that pom.xml for Spring Boot MVC demo. So here what was our dependency? Our dependency was Spring Boot starter to start the web. web module will be started. Starter data JPA to start the JPA for data source. Theme leaf to enable the theme leaf engine into HTML. Embedded Tomcat starter. MySQL dependency, MySQL driver, and this is a starter dependency, and along with that one we have added Hibernate validator. This validator is extra dependency that we have added. So why this dependency is required? This Hibernate org.hibernate.validator, Hibernate validator, this is to validate the DTO. We have seen here, this is the validations that is happening. Yeah, this validation is happening. So how this validation is happening? Because of DTO. If you go to DTO, in the DTO fields we have marked the annotations like @pattern, blank, min, digits, not blank, post. So because of these annotations it is showing these errors. So to enable these validation, we need to import that validation related annotation. So that annotation is present under org.hibernate.validator. So this extra dependency that we just added in our Spring Boot MVC demo. So I have not shown you that last because I forgot to show you that pom.xml. So that's why I am just explaining. And the other purpose to explain this one, that we can differentiate what is the difference between SpringRest and Spring MVC. Spring MVC is including UI component along with your Spring web application, but SpringRest will not include any UI technology like JSP, HTML, JavaScript, JSP, HTML, theme leaf. It will not include WebFlex. It will not include because not required. UI technology will be, you can be anything like PHP, Angular, React, HTML, any of them it can be. So that is the definition of a SpringRest. That is nothing but RESTful web application. So Spring provide support for REST services which strictly adhere the REST principle. Following are the advantages of making the functionality of an application as RESTful service. REST mean RESTful service. What is RESTful service? The service or the endpoint that is created in Spring application and that can be called using HTTP request, and we can return the data in form of JSON, XML, or any plain text or any streaming type media like PDF, video, audio file, any of them we can stream. So that is the definition of SpringRest. So why Spring RESTful services is required? Easy communication. For easy communication, resource sharing, we can share the resources, we can reuse the API, and independent client server architecture. Okay, so why web services? There is the possibility that one application has to communication with another application. For example, we are buying some product online from some website. Once we selected that item, item will be redirected to payment gateway, and the payment gateway is what? It is your bank. Payment gateway, suppose if you are buying from the Flipkart, so Flipkart don't have that payment options. No, you have to make your payment through bank only. That in the modern way, in Government of India has introduced UPI. So using UPI, you can just scan the barcode and you can make the payment. That is in another way, that's very easy way we can do. But suppose if there is no UPI also, in case of UPI also, you have to make the transaction through bank only, because that is bank is bank has another application. Using that application only you have to make the payment for Flipkart. But if you are not using UPI, then in that case you have to make internet banking. You have to log into your bank with your username password, and you have to make the payment. But before to making the payment, your Flipkart will redirect to you to your bank application. You will select your bank, whether this is your bank like SBI, BNB or ICICI, any of the bank, and your Flipkart will redirect you to the banking payment system, that is a bank application, and there you will make the payment and the response will come back to your Flipkart. So that is the same example. So you once you select item, and we will be redirected to the payment gateway to pay the amount. It means we have to pay some amount from our bank account, but our bank application is written on some other language. Yeah, that is a possibility. Application that a bank is that bank has, that may be written in some other language, like that can be in Python, that can be in Go, or that can be in Groovy, any programming language they can use, whatever they choose. And but our application is written in Java, their application is written in Python or any other application, like that can be in Node.js also, JavaScript. So that is their choice, no, in which language they are developing that application. But we have to make the communication. If the platforms are different, in that case we have to develop REST service, we have to develop web service. So it means we have to pay some amount from our bank, but our bank application is written in some other language, and it use some other platform to execute the code, but both application has to communicate with each other. In this case, in this time, REST service come into the picture. That's it. So what is web services? W3C defines the web services as a client server application that make the communication using HTTP protocol. Yeah, this is a client server application. One client will be there, that client will send a request to server, and client will send a request to server in form of HTTP protocol, and server will process that request, and the request will contain the data that may be in the HTML or JSON format. HTTP, a client, this web services is a client server application that make communication using HTTP protocol and send the request to client in form of XML, JSON, blank text, or any multi-part files, like such as video, PDF, HTML, and sorry, not HTML, any data like that can be a blank text, JSON, XML, PDF file, audio file, video file. So that is the client, that is a client server application that make communication using HTTP protocol and send the data in form of XML, JSON, PDF, blank text, any file. Make possible to communication between two applications that are written on a different language or platform. The use of the web services. What is web services? Web services make possible the communication between two applications that were written on a different language platform and high extensible and loosely coupled application. How it is a loosely coupled? If you see our customer application, so this customer application is tightly coupled. How it is tightly coupled? This application is inside in one project only, and inside this application only you have to write your view. Yes, you can see here in the WebINF views, if you see, we have to write all the view technologies, a code inside views only here, and it is mandatory that you have to use HTML, JavaScript, and Bootstrap. That only you can use, or Webflex or other technology that is given in Java only you have to use. There is no other option. You cannot use like you want to use Angular here, or you want to use, because Angular will run on Node.js platform. Angular will not run in JVM. So that is tightly coupled application. But REST services will return only the response in form of HTML, not in HTML, in form of JSON, XML, blank text, or any PDF or audio file, related any file, any binary data. So that's why this is high extensible and loosely coupled application. Okay, the difference between web application and web services is here. This is web application is meant for human. Yeah, this application is meant for human can enter here details, and a human can interact with this application directly. But REST application is meant for application. Web application we will create for application, we will not create for human will not understand. Human has to send that request in form of HTTP, and this should be the data, this should be this will be the response. In the response this parameter will be there. So that is meant for application. But web application or web MVC application is meant for human. It has a UI. Web application will have a UI, but web services will not have any UI component. This accessed through the browser or some standard application, but this is accessed through the code, through the programming language only. Reusing the communication functionality of web application is difficult, very difficult. You can reuse, but you have to reuse inside your Vue technology that is written in Java only. You can reuse, but if you want to reuse the same functionality for other application, like that application was written in Node or application was written in Python, you cannot use. You cannot use at all. So in that case you have to go with web services. Reusable, the functionality is very easy. Following are the advantages of web services. Integration with another application is very easy through the platform is defined, or some reusability, easy to use, save time, cost and efforts. Okay, now here two types of web services. One is the SOAP, that is a simple object access protocol, not is used in nowadays. RESTful, another one is a RESTful, that is used in nowadays. So SOAP defines a messaging framework that rely on XML and schemas only, and it is itself a protocol and can be transported over some protocol like HTTP, SMTP, FTP, etc. To develop SOAP based services we use following component like WSDL, web services description language, provided in XML format only. UDDI, universal description, discovery and integration, it is registry service which XML can be based, where service can be registered or discovered. SOAP based web services are accessed through SOAP, simple object access protocol, that is also again using XML only. But RESTful is what? Representation, state transfer. Nowadays RESTful only is used. So RESTful state transfer is an application style that use HTTP communication to develop the service. In REST, everything is resource, that could be page or data. In REST, the resource can be represented into many form like JSON, XML or any other type of format. So here are the difference between SOAP and RESTful. SOAP is itself is a protocol. REST, this is an architectural style. SOAP message can be transported over transport layer like SMTP and FTP, but its message can be transferred over HTTP protocol. Resource data can be represented in XML format only, but this can be represented in many format like MIME type, XML, JSON, blank text, any. Predefined format is required between the provider and consumer. Predefined format is not required between the, because we will define the format. It is like an envelope, it is like a postcard. difficult to handle the response, easy to handle the response. So that's why RESTful is more powerful than SOAP. Okay, we can use HTTP method of the following operation on the resource. The operations are get. Four operations are, HTTP has a 4 operation that can be used for 4 different operations. Data has a 4 different operation, that is read, create, update and delete. For reading purpose we will use get method that is used to fetch the resource. Create operation is done through post method and that is used to add the data, adds an existing resource to server or adding the data to server. Next one is put method is used to do the update operation and that transfer a resource to server and overrides the existing resource. And delete method is used to delete the resource, discarding the resource. So these 4 are the HTTP method that is used in REST. Okay, but if you see in our last application, in this customer application, if you see that controller, if you see this controller, this is a controller and controller return type that can be a string or that can be a model and view. It's your choice. If you give a string, then the string name directly will be mapped to your view UI name. If it is a model and view, then from the model and view it will get your view name. Okay, so here return type is either can be model and view or either can be a string. But but if you see here, we are using here post, get mapping, post mapping, get mapping, post mapping to delete. But here we are saying delete can be used, delete method can be used to do the deletion operation of on data. But in the previous application we are using post mapping to delete, get mapping to get the data, and post mapping to update the record also. See, update customer using post, but here we are saying put should be used to update the data, post should be used to add the data. So that is correct. Post we are using to add the data. To adding the customer we are using post. And but put and delete we are not using, because in HTML only get and post is supported. Method type is get and post. Put and delete we can use in REST. Okay, so that is 4 operations. Yeah, I have shown you this pom.xml of this MVC application also. So just I'm stopping this server now. Okay, fine. So now these 4 are the HTTP method for different CURD operation on data. Now the difference between URL, URN and UI, we have seen this is our URL, localhost. Before to this localhost, HTTP will be there. HTTP HTTP like that it will be. HTTP localhost, this is your port number, host IP address, and this is your port number of application where application is starting. This one is what? This one is your application context. So if you see this Spring Boot MVC application here, what is our application context? Application context will be the name of your application. Spring Boot MVC demo is our application name, Spring Boot MVC demo. So that will be application context. But here if you see in the server resource application.property file, we have defined that port should be 8082. Then why this port is 808? Because we are running this application in separate container. We are running, how we are running this application? This application we are running on run as server. External server we are using to run. So that in that case, whatever that server configuration has, that configuration will be used for this server. for this external server we are using 8080 as the port number. So application will definitely started on 8080 port only. You can see it is starting. Now you can see this application is, now before to that one you can type HTTP also, that is fine, it will be same only. Okay, so here this is your application port, sorry, application context, this is your application port, but our application port is 8082 and context path is customer, but here context path is also that application name only, because we are running application in external server. This application, this service server related configuration will work when we will run that application in embedded server. So this is your embedded server Spring Boot app. Now that application will start in embedded server. It is starting, you can see. Now that application will starting in embedded server. Now you can see Tomcat initialized with port 8082. You can see Tomcat started on 8082 with the context path customer. Now what you have to do, if you refresh this one it will not work. So on which port number this application is listening? 8082. What is the context path? If still you will enter, will not work, not found, it is not there. So what is your context path? Customer is your context, sorry, yeah, customer is your context path. So type here customer and enter. Yes, now you can see. Now this port and context path, servlet dot context path is working and server dot port it is using, and you can see in console also showing customer dashboard, it is working. Adding customer, showing, entering into add new customer, view customer, showing view customer. This is the select statement that is executing. Delete customer, showing delete customer. So this now this application is running into embedded Tomcat, but we can run this application into external server also. That can be a Tomcat, Wildfly, JBoss, Red Hat, any server it can be. Whatever you wanted to configure, you can configure. We are configuring here Tomcat 10. It should be in 10 only. It should not be other than like 9, or because it is the latest version and we are using everything as a latest version. If you see that pom.xml, also, the latest version of Spring 3.0.2 we are using. Spring Boot version Spring version is 6 now. Spring version is 6. That is the latest one we are using. Spring Boot version is 3.0.2 we are using. So it is using latest. So latest Tomcat 10 we have to add. Okay, whatever you wanted to use you can use. Fine. So this is about the URL. So this is your URL, localhost 8082. So localhost is what? This is your application host IP, where your application is running, in which system your application is running, that is the IP address. 8082 is the port number, means in one server there will be application server, whatever the server will be running, that will be running on some port. Yeah, like in your one operating system you can run 3 server, 5 server, up to your choice how many you want to run, you can run. So if you want to run 2 server, then you have to give the port number, different port number you should use. If you want to use for one, you can use 8081, another one you can use 8082, for another one you can use 8083, like that. Different port number should be different. In that case you can run 2, 3, 4 Tomcat, but application port should be different. So here if you see here, this is one Tomcat that is running on 8082. Let me start in this one again. I will show you. So this application is listening on 8082. You can see this is a Tomcat only. Here it is saying, yeah, Tomcat started on port 8082 with this context path. Yes, yeah, this is your Tomcat and this is started. Okay, and now if I wanted to start another Tomcat, so what I will do start up.sh. It is starting another Tomcat on port number, let's see, localhost not 8080. I think I have started on some other one. Yeah, that is on 9090, another Tomcat. You can see I have configured another Tomcat, that version is 9.0.58, and this Tomcat is running on 8082. Two Tomcats are running now. Why? Because both has a different port. This is running on 8082, this is running on 9090. Okay, so like that you can configure more than one container, one server in your system you can run, but port number should be different. So here this is our port number, this is your application context. Application context is just stop this one. This is your application context. Okay, so the difference between URL, URI and URN is this one. You can see, I will just make this larger and you can see. Suppose HTTP is what? Your protocol, HTTP protocol. Localhost is your IP address. Oh, sorry, your machine IP address. Localhost means in the local machine. Or else if other machine like facebook.com, so that Facebook or google.com, that will be an IP address. The domain name will be replaced with IP address. Okay, user, that is an application context. After that application context, whatever the parameter you are passing, in that case it will completely, that will become an URI. This will become an URI. And what is URN? URN is the last part, whatever the parameters you are passing. User ID U0001, so that is a URN. What is URL? URL is the just your server address only. Localhost 8080, this one, localhost 808, we have given no 9090. So this is your server address only. So that is only the URL. So URN and URL is the subset of URI, and URI is the superset. This has all, and URN and URL is the subset, but URI is the superset. Okay, fine. So to know more about the URL and URN, we can go to this one. So here it will be defining what is URI. Okay, you can know more about that one. What should be the query, what is the path, what is host, everything it will be. The host, subcomponent, authority, define, IP, literal. It is giving more technical information about that one. You can see. Okay. Fine. So in the next session we will do a setup, how we will learn how we will create a SpringRest application using Spring Boot, how we will develop the application. We will see in the next session. So I hope you like this session. Please subscribe my channel and we will see you in the next session. Till that, bye bye and thanks for watching.